you need it.
Good evening, and thank you. I'm going to go through a presentation, an explanation of the hybrid 620 route. This is something that I think you'll have heard a lot about. Unfortunately, everything you've heard has been from parties other than us. So I'd like to walk you all through that, point out a few things that highlight the route, and then point out some claims that we see as being fairly obviously false made by Austin Water about this route. I'll go into the route itself. This map lays it out for you, starting from the bottom left. The dashed white line is the Spicewood Springs route. This is the way things are currently being planned, running roughly diagonally towards the tank, which is the blue dot on the right. And the red circle on the way is the shaft. That's currently the ground zero for the main construction method being planned. Apparently, there are alternative methods being evaluated. The hybrid 620 route starts at the same place at the WTP plant bottom left, runs north from there. It does not run along 620. This is point number one. There have been statements made by Citi, including by I believe, ACM Rudy Garza, that says our proposal would shut down 620 to a single lane. This is completely and totally false. The route goes along the Pedernales Electric Cooperative Utility Corridor. It heads up towards the red dot at the top. That red dot is the alternative WTP site purchased by the city a couple of years ago. It's about 73 acres in size. From there, it goes across to the right along Spicewood Springs Road and then down to the tank along 183. A couple of highlights of this route. The first segment going north is not tunneled. It's done along the surface or in a trench. The very first mile is sensitive area with shallow caves and critters. And we have two proposals for that segment. One is a surface pipe literally laid along the surface. It meets the 4 feet limitations. There are some limitations on what you can do there. It meets the 4 feet limitations. Alternatively, you can have a short tunnel segment. I'll show you a profile in just a second. The rest of that route is done with a trench, which saves approximately $10 million on the cost. From there, going down Spicewood Springs, it's all tunnel. There is no impact. Going down Anderson Mill, there's all tunnel, and there is no impact on the road at all. Along 183, it's all tunnel, and there's no impact on the road at all. This is the profile. First segment, either the green bar, which is a surface pipe, or the dashed brown line, which is a tunnel. Both of them are a way of avoiding or working around the surface-sensitive areas. Next segment is open cut up to the corner of the alternate WTP site, and then it's tunneled the rest of the way. I'll show you some implications of this route in a minute. In order to look at the impact of this route, I'll talk about the impact of the tunnel. This is the stuff 100 feet underground. I'll talk about the impact of the shaft site. This is basically a ground zero. I'll talk about the impact of everything that goes to and from the shaft site. These are the three main contributors to impact. And of course, if we're going to propose open cut, we have to talk about the impact of open cut. I'll talk to that also very briefly. Start with environmental impact. Spicewood, the environmental impact. I believe you'll have heard this many times. It comes from the shaft. It comes from the tunnel. It comes from the risk of the tunnel interfering with critical features in the headwaters region of Bull Creek. And it comes with corresponding threats to the salamander and to Bull Creek itself. There's an interesting little quote from the Black and Veatch report that says, for the Spicewood Springs route, the dewatering rate, there's a nice little phrase called dewatering, the dewatering rate can be as high as 270 gallons per minute. I'll let you multiply that out by minutes per day. It's not a trivial number. And that's the dewatering that happens out of the tunnel, and that amount of water correspondingly gets put into Bull Creek. I'll talk about corresponding environmental impact on hybrid 620. The shaft sites are bigger, 0.89 acres versus 73 acres. That's a pretty huge difference. The tunnel route does not threaten Upper Bull Creek. There's no danger to the creek from dumping stuff into it. There's no danger. The proposal protects the caves and salamander habitats. Most of the work is in existing commercial zones. Community impact, this one actually was an interesting one to expand on, again because of statements made by city. Both Greg Mazzaros and I believe ACM Rudy Garza have made statements about this is just a group of people that don't want it in their backyard. So we thought, let's work out something real that says impact looks roughly like A versus B. Here's what it looks like. This is the Spicewood shaft. On the Spicewood Springs route, the little red dot is ground zero. In order to talk about impact, you need a zone. So we picked a zone. We picked a zone from the Austin Water documents. We picked 600 feet. We also tried 1,000 feet, and we tried 1,500 feet. The comparable numbers, they work on both the routes about the same, so I'll talk just to the 600 feet zone here. Within 600 feet, you've got the shaft site itself, 0.8 acres. You've got 48 homes within 600 feet. You've got about 3 to 400 homes if you go out to 1,000 or 1,500 feet. So I stuck with the 600 feet. You have to multiply the number of homes by the duration. If you don't consider the duration, then you're talking about a pretty meaningless number. Austin Water numbers do not consider duration. This is from professional engineers, which I believe the mayor said he trusts. So if you take the number of homes, you take the duration of 36 months, for Spicewood Springs, you get 1,728 home months. That's a figure we'll file away, and then we'll compare it to the next route. Trucking out from there, it's 1.8 miles to get to the highway, 1.8 miles through residential neighborhood, 120 feet in front of a middle school. So you have trucks going by every 4 minutes in front of a middle school where 1,000 students are trying to get their middle school education. So that's one school or 1,000 students times 36 months. That number is 36,000 student months. There's one park that gets hit, and like I said, if you expand the zone, you get a bigger number. Here's the corresponding impact for Hybrid 620. First of all, start with the site itself. It's 73 acres in size, not 0.89 acres. That's a lot of space. In that space, you can put water holding tanks, you can put noise barriers, you can park your trucks, you can have your workers have their porta potties, you can park your sailboats there. If you take a zone outside this shaft site, 600 feet zone, within that 600 feet zone, total number of homes or businesses, 0. That's a 0 with nothing in front of it. 0 times 36 months makes 0 home months versus 1,700 and something home months. Walk around this area and you come across paint and body, parking, storage, construction, Jiffy Lube, and 620. Completely commercial zone. Drive to 620, it is 0.3 miles away. You pass 0 schools. 0 schools times 36 months makes 0 student months. Expand the zone out to 1,500 feet. You hit a few more apartments. They're very close to 620, and both sites, both routes get affected in comparable ways. Moving on. Open cut. We're proposing that part of the segment be trenched in order to save money. If you want to consider the impact of trench, which I'm sure you have been told is truly horrendous if it can be done at all, but here's what you need to do. Open trench is a moving impact zone. You tear up a piece of land, you bury the pipe, you close it up, you move on. Tear up the next segment, bury the pipe, you close it up, you move on.